Finally, they reached the great city of Adrianople. Their first attack on the city failed. Fritigern realized that without siege equipment, he would never capture the city, and pulled his forces back. He also knew that while the Roman army had been in decline, it was still a formidable force.
Valens begins to prepare immediately to confront this force. The next day, at about dawn, he marches out. This time he marches out in battle order, with the cavalry in the front, infantry in the middle, cavalry at the back, out the road.
The Roman Emperor Valens had 15 to 20,000 men under his command. He marched to meet the Goths outside Adrianople. At the same time, his nephew Gratian left Italy with a small army. The plan was that he and Valens would join forces and together drive the Goths back across the frontier. Valens camped outside Adrianople and sent his scouts on ahead to spy on the Goths. They rode back with surprising news. This was no vast barbarian horde. They reckoned that Fritigern had no more than 10,000 men. Valens already outnumbered them by at least 5,000. Valens had to make a quick decision. If he attacked now, he would stand a good chance against a small force. His battle-hardened legions would scatter the poorly disciplined tribesmen. And there was another attraction. If he won the battle now, he wouldn't have to share the glory of victory with Gratian.
My guess is that the Emperor Valens actually had an abiding jealousy of his nephew.
A group of Valens' generals urged him to attack, but his cavalry commander urged him to wait for Gratian. And in a letter, Gratian himself warned Valens to wait a short time.
We have the classic situation in which Valens receives a message from Gratian which says, "Please wait in dealing with the problem because I'm coming to help."
While the argument raged, Fritigern sent a Christian priest with an offer of peace in exchange for land for the Goths. It may have been a genuine offer, or he may have been stalling for time, waiting for reinforcements. But Valens decided to fight.
Worst possible solution was simply to confront the Goths himself with a single army in a way that favored the enemy tactically, and that's what he did. It was because he was jealous and wanted the glory for himself.
August 9th, 378 was a blisteringly hot day. Valens left his baggage train and the imperial treasure inside the walls of Adrianople and marched at the head of his army to meet the Goths. The Goths were a people on the move. Families, women, children, slaves, and captives. When traveling, their baggage train alone stretched 6 miles. Now, as they prepared for battle, the Goths made good use of these wagons. They drew them up in a circle, like the early Western settlers in the United States, who drew their wagons into a circle to defend against attacking Indians.
A nomadic people travels civilian and soldier alike, and in the evening they circle the wagons and they yoke the tongue of the wagon with one another, and therefore they can create a de facto fortified position very quickly and instantaneously in a way that even the Roman army could not. It gave impetus to the soldier to fight with the idea that if he lost, he wouldn't just lose the battle, but he would lose his livelihood, maybe his family. So it was a very effective concept.
The Goths only used the wagon circle as a fallback position. They preferred to fight in the open, on the plain, with plenty of room to maneuver. The Roman army which faced the Goths still resembled the army of Julius Caesar and the Rome of 400 years earlier.
The troops at the Battle of Adrianople were basically your standard infantry of the late Roman Empire. They would have been armed with weapons that Julius Caesar would have recognized, but they would have been different. The shield was a different shape, the sword was a bit longer, the armor was essentially the same as in the days of Julius Caesar.
Fritigern moved his troops into formation, well out in front of the wagon circle. But he had no intention of fighting. He was playing for time and preparing a trap for his Roman enemies. (378 AD). In what is now Turkey, the legions of Rome's Eastern Empire are fighting to save their land from invasion by the Goths. The two armies faced each other outside the walls of Adrianople. But the Goth leader Fritigern was determined to keep Rome waiting. He was playing for time as large numbers of his cavalry were scattered, foraging for grass and food.
This was August in the Balkans. There's nothing to eat for horses. They were in the nearby ravines, pasturing their horses.
This was why the Roman scouts had seen few cavalry and underestimated the Goth numbers at only 10,000. When the outlying cavalry returned to the army, its numbers would swell by thousands more. Fritigern stalled by once again sending an envoy to Valens, pretending that he wanted to open peace negotiations. While the coming and going continued, the Roman soldiers stood around in the burning heat. Why Valens bothered with negotiations is anybody's guess. Perhaps he realized the Goth army was bigger than he thought. But then without warning, the battle began. An elite Roman cavalry unit and a band of archers had been skirmishing with the Goth right wing.